What is going on, everyone, and welcome to Entitled Parents, the movie Autumn Edition. In this video, my longest video ever, I have compiled some of the best Entitled Parents stories from the past few months, and I think you're gonna love them. I believe this is actually the 5th movie in my Entitled Parents franchise of movies, if you want to call it that. If you want to check out the other 4, they are down below in the description and the pinned comments. But without further ado, let's jump into this 5th installment of Entitled Parents, the movie. Entitled Mother offended by nudity on a nude beach. I never thought I'd have a story to tell, but I recently went to the beach and remembered this gem. Note that this happened quite a while ago, so I might be a bit fuzzy on the details. So, little old 7-year-old me, my dad, stepmom, and brother were at the beach. Since we didn't have swimsuits, we just went to the nude beach instead of the family one. So, we're just chilling in a secluded spot on a hill, playing with sand and stuff, when my dad went to the forest to bring us all some berries that were growing nearby. As he leaves, this woman in her bikini waddles over to us, baby in hands, and looks down on me doing whatever I was doing. She's the entitled mum of the story. "Excuse me?" my stepmom said. "Hello, do you need something? I just don't want you corrupting my child with your husband's nudity." Her said child was a baby, like a literal baby, probably not even a year old. "Okay, but you do know you're on a nude beach, right?" "I do, but I came here since there's less people. I especially came to this spot so we didn't see any nudity, and you are ruining our beach experience." As she said this, she scoffed and went back to her spot. We just shrugged it off, and when my dad came back, we moved a bit further away and the show was over. I'm sorry it's not as crazy as the other stories, but I wanted to share this. I mean, yeah, it may not be as crazy as some of the other stories I've read on this subreddit, but still, it's pretty mad. There's a reason it's called a nudist beach. Being nude is kind of allowed, it's kind of the point. Just because you don't want to go and sit on a normal beach where there are a lot more people, you want to have your space, that kind of means that you can't have a go at people who are being nude, again, on a nudist beach. It's just a bit weird, isn't it? Like, come on, lady, if you care so much about your child, or potentially you, seeing a nude adult, don't go on a nudist beach. It's called nudist beach for a reason. You know, let's move on to our next story. So, moving on, Mum wanted me to give my sister my house, and my sister says I stole her dream. When me and my husband decided to move, we wanted to live on our own spot of land instead of the cookie cutter community and no homeowners association. The house was still mortgaged. It was a 2-story, 5-bedroom and 3.5 bath house and was less than a year old. Me and my husband at the time had no kids, only 2 dogs, and while we loved the house, the taxes and homeowners association fees and maintenance were really annoying to us and overpriced. And we wanted a little more privacy too, because our neighbours were literally 2 feet away from our own home. We were at a small family gathering with my parents and siblings discussing our options about where we wanted to move to, and if we wanted to build or buy a temporary mobile home to save up for our true dream house. I noticed my sister pull my mother aside and they were whispering about something, but I ignored it as my dad was telling us about some great opportunities in some nice country-like areas, which was what we were hoping for. I always wanted to raise sheep and chickens and needed an area that allowed that. Later that night, my mum and sister asked if they could speak to me privately, which was never a good sign. But I sighed and we went into my mum's bedroom and closed the door like they were getting ready to punish me or something, which made me anxious. "Listen, honey, me and your sister have been talking and we were thinking it would be a really good idea if you sold your house to your sister. She has 3 kids and the house she lives in now is so small. This would be a major help to her and her family." My mum was using a tone like someone would use for a 5-year-old. I was 33 at the time. "That's not a problem, she just needs to go through the proper channels like everyone else. I can get you in contact with our realtors easily and you can take it from there." I was thinking at this point that she wanted to buy the house legit. No, you don't understand," my sister whined as she looked at Mum all teary-eyed. She would do this so my mum would take pity on her, and apparently they had discussed this before coming to me. "Honey, your sister's credit isn't good, so she would never qualify for such a big loan to buy your house. So we were thinking that maybe you could transfer the house into her and her husband's name, but you keep paying the mortgage, and your sister will pay you under the table what is owed. That way she can get the house and you won't be losing any money over it since she'll be paying you back after all." She was still talking to me all sweet like. What? Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea what the mortgage is? It's $2,500 a month. Sister, you and your husband barely make $25,000 a year, and that's when he actually has a job. And you don't work at all, not to mention the $1,500 land taxes and the $800 HOA fees. Look, I understand you want a better place, but I know for a fact there would be a month you would fall on hard times, like you always do, and not be able to pay for that month, and I can't afford to keep you there if you don't pay, which we both know will eventually happen. You need to buy this house legit or not at all. I'm not making any kind of deals because we need to be selling this house to buy our new place anyway. I was about to leave, but my sister burst into tears at this. Mummy, me and my husband will work really hard to pay you every month, I swear. We need this place because we would never be able to get a place like this on our own. This is our only chance. She began to cry into my mother's chest at this. You need to stop being so selfish. You and your husband in the living room bragging about building a house and getting your own land and everything. Knowing your sister is having so many financial difficulties and raising 3 children, my mum yelled at me. That's exactly my point. She is always struggling financially. How can she afford $2,500 a month on a mortgage alone? I would eventually end up just paying her mortgage all the time because her husband changes jobs like I change underwear, and I simply can't afford it. And since the house would be in her name, then I would have no way to kick her out. Eventually, I would have to stop paying and the bank would repossess the house, and I would be left with nothing financially, which would need to fund getting a new place, not to mention damaging my credit score, which I worked very hard to make good. Harsh, yes, but the truth often is. I can't believe you are doing this just to spite me. You are stealing my dream and not even giving me something in return. She began to whine even more. What are you talking about, stealing your dream? I was really confused. I was always the one who wanted to buy my own little spot of land and build a little house. You were talking about raising chickens and planting a garden. Those were my dreams and you are stealing them, you selfish female dog, she yelled. Oh wow, imagine that. I want to be a homeowner. You are the only one in the world who's wanted that. I guess mum stole your dream too, right? She owns land and a house and gardens all the time. And oh my god, someone else's sister does too, and she raises chickens. We all stole your dream. I was being overly sarcastic because it was so ridiculous. That's different. They are older than us, but you're younger. You shouldn't upstage your older sister like this. Just because you and your husband make more money than us, it's not fair. She was still crying and making a huge scene, but I was done with this at this point. The answer is no. You want the house, you buy it legit, not under the table, and certainly not me footing the bill and losing a ton of cash. I know that would inevitably happen. And I'm not stealing anything from you. If I want a little plot of land and to grow a garden and raise chickens, that's my choice. You have nothing to do with how I live my life. If this is such a reasonable request, Mum, then why don't you buy her a house legit? You put it in her name and just let her pay you under the table too, instead of asking your daughter to take care of her sister. My sister is your child, not mine, and I will not spend our hard-earned money supporting her and her family. My sister was throwing a huge fit after that, crying and begging my mum to make me do this, like we were still little kids or something. It was a pretty sad sight to see her throwing a tantrum like a 2-year-old. Yeah, and she's the golden child. Really? I told my husband we needed to leave, and we spent the drive home with me telling him what my mum and sister were trying to pull over on us. He responded, "Even if you did agree, did she really think I would go for it? I like your family and all, but dang, your sister is something else altogether. Stealing her dream, what was that all about?" he asked as we laughed about it a little. We have our own land now and are living in a double-wide trailer that we love. 5 bedrooms and 3 full baths, and thankfully no stairs, no HOA, a much cheaper mortgage and taxes, and wonderful privacy. I could walk around naked with all the windows open and no one would ever see me. Not that I do, but I could if I wanted to, lol. My sister has moved twice within the last 2 years and is always renting because their credit is terrible and they can't get a loan to buy any house. I just heard from my mother that they have been sending them money almost monthly for groceries because they can barely afford to buy food. Yeah, and you think she could have afforded that mortgage? I don't regret my decision one bit, and I love my little vegetable garden that I make homemade soup with often. Yeah, OP, there's no doubt in my mind that you made the right decision here. Obviously, it's a tough one, especially given that it's your family, it's your sister. I assume you love her, even though she seems very difficult. Yeah, it would have been nice to give her something, but you know, it's impossible, this situation. As you said yourself, you said halfway through the story how it would have affected you, her inability to pay you back for the mortgage, that sort of stuff. It was bound to happen. And yeah, as you can see at the end of the story, they're having to get money from their mum now, your mum, to be able to even buy food. So yeah, clearly, as you know, you made the right decision, but it was a tough one, I can imagine. To be honest, I don't really blame your sister as much as I blame your mum. Yeah, your sister should have had a bit more common sense, but your mum, I just don't understand her reasoning there at all. Why is she going along with this plan? First of all, her golden child daughter's credit is already ruined, clearly, and now secondly, she's probably trying to ruin your credit as well. Why? For what gain? Yes, maybe it would make your sister a little bit more happy in the short term, but long term, you both would be in financial ruin. It would clearly not be worth it. You both have to suffer dramatically for no real reason. I mean, it's not your problem, just let your sister deal with it. Entitled Parents gets talentless girl into school band, gets mad when people don't applaud when she sings. A little background. My school has one of the best underage bands in the city, not a small one, in spite of being a moderate-sized school, 1,000 kids. They perform at big places and draw in huge audiences. So anyway, there's this entitled parent who is a teacher and her daughter goes to the school. Now, the daughter is a bad singer, there's no two ways about it. I hope that's the correct way to use the phrase, yes it is. So anyway, one day, the band's pianist, Kay, is fuming during the bus ride back. On being asked, he begins to rant about how the entitled parent, the teacher, forces the music teacher to put the entitled daughter on the band, etc. They had a show in the city's biggest mall the next week and had been practicing for months. The entitled teacher wanted her entitled daughter to sing for that show. Anyway, it's the day of the show. I'm watching from the audience. The first 7 songs bring in a huge audience and everybody enjoys the amazing music. Then it's the entitled daughter's turn. The guitarist plays the opening notes of a very popular song during the time. The crowd goes wild. Then the daughter sings. The enthusiasm drained away fast. There is silence as the daughter massacres an amazing song. Then the entitled teacher gets up and starts clapping loudly. Everyone is mortified. Some people start to awkwardly clap. The music teacher tried to move on to the next song, but the entitled mum yells out, "Wait, they haven't clapped for my angel's performance yet!" The audience is dumbfounded. I see the pianist's facepalm. Then the entitled daughter yells into the microphone, "Clap for me!" No one moves a muscle. She then runs up the stage and her entitled parent, the teacher, takes a microphone and yells, "You can't appreciate talent," before chasing after her daughter. The concert continued. The daughter left the band and the entitled parent teacher is still in the school. And that, ladies and gents, is why favoritism is never usually a good thing. It never ends with the best people being in the best positions for them. As you can see right here, the whole band really has been let down by this one entitled daughter. And to be fair to her, she shouldn't even be in that position anyway. It's her own mother's fault, let's be honest. So overall, many people have been embarrassed because of one person being very entitled. Let's not do that again, how about that? Moving on to our next story now. How dare that lady be travel sick? So this happened about 5 years ago. My friend and I travelled to Orlando from London for 3 weeks. On the way out, we had seats side by side, but on the way back, we got to the airport a bit later, so ended up with aisle seats, one behind the other. No problem, we will manage. We get to the flight, and I end up sitting next to this couple. We get settled in and say hello. They tell me they just got married and are going on a European adventure for their honeymoon. I offered them some tips on nice places in London, and we were getting on well. The wife also mentioned that she gets travel sick on flights and might need to get past me in a rush. She was really apologetic. I said no problem, that I sometimes had similar problems. At this point, the entitled mum comes by, dragging her crying toddler by one hand while her daughter is slouching behind them. The daughter looked maybe 10. They sat beside me. I glanced back at my friend and she grinned as though to say, "Good luck." We take off, and for the first half hour, everything is fine. I put my earphones in and was listening to an audiobook, as this prevents anxiety on flights for me. Then I noticed the nice woman, the one who gets sick, move so her back is to me, head on her nice husband's shoulder. He's stroking her back and talking to her. A few minutes later, he grabs a sick bag from the seat pockets. She's very inconspicuous about it, but I noticed the entitled mum looking our way and frowning. 10 minutes later, the nice woman feels unwell again and decides to go to the bathroom. The husband and I exchange sympathetic looks. At this point, I feel a tap on my elbow. It's the entitled mum. Could you ask her not to do that? Who not to do what? Your friend not to, pass things. It's disgusting and disturbing my daughter. Her daughter is playing a Nintendo DS and is thoroughly absorbed from what I can see. Sorry, but I'm not with her. I'm with my friend behind me. Besides, she's travel sick, mom. She can't help it. Oh, don't lie. You were talking to her. Besides, you can hold it in. We're sitting together for 8 hours. We exchange pleasantries. That's it. At this point, the nice husband chimes in. If you have a problem with my wife, talk to me. She shouldn't be passing stuff like that. She should be more discreet. She was. No one else seems disturbed. Yeah, I wouldn't have known if she hadn't said something to me. Oh, you're a pair of liars. I'll get this resolved. She presses the call button. A minute later, a flight attendant comes down the aisle. Yes, how can I help? The woman who is with these two keeps being sick and disturbing my daughter. I want them moved. I don't, says the husband. The attendant gives him a don't worry, I'll sort this look. Actually, I was just talking with your wife, sir, giving her some ginger ale to help. She mentioned you two are newlyweds. Congratulations. To help resolve the issue and as our gift to you, I'd be happy to move you both up to 2 available first-class seats. The entitled mum's jaw dropped. It was glorious. With a big grin, the nice husband picked up their rucksack and things and left, giving me a shoulder squeeze as he did. The entitled mum spent the rest of the flight in stony silence, while I got my friend to join me in my row. As we picked up our bags, we saw the couple again, looking very happy and loved up. I hope they're both still happy. Oh, what an awesome story. Look, I do kind of get it. It's not the most pleasant thing, someone being sick near you, just in general. But come on, seasickness, air sickness, travel sickness, that sort of stuff. It's a normal thing. And to be fair to this woman, it can't be exactly that enjoyable suffering with air sickness. She's doing it as discreetly as she possibly can. And probably, to be fair, it's more annoying for other people if she keeps getting up, going to the bathroom, coming back, doing laps like that. That would probably be more annoying. So doing what she's doing, being as silent as possible, making as less fuss as possible, I think she's doing as well as she can. And yeah, for this entitled mum to get annoyed by it, come on. She's not disrespecting your kids or annoying your kids. They're glued onto their screens. They don't care. You're the only one that cares, so just keep yourself to yourself. It's only 8 hours. It will be done soon. That's it. Rant over. Let's move on to the next story. Moving on then to our final story, my mother's hopefully last attempt at keeping me from moving in with my girlfriend. Now, consistent viewers of my channel will recognize this sort of story. We've seen this one from the same user a couple of times before. Some time ago, me and my girlfriend, from now on I'll refer to her as Eva, a fake name, got into a dispute to say the least with my mother, who heavily despises Eva. Probably just consider this as an update to my last post here, yeah, which I'm pretty sure I read out. Well, since then, I finally got my driving license and a car from my father, a 30-year-old trash can with an engine and 4 wheels, which was his first car as well. Wow. Well, starting it today to drive to work for the first time since I got the car was one of the most pleasant sounds and feelings, even though I heard it countless times during the past 18 years. Why? Well, it symbolizes a fully independent life with Eva for me, that the effort and work we've put in during the past several months hasn't been in vain. Well, today after work, I had to stop over at my, now former, house to take some stuff. I wasn't happy at all about it, but hey, I ain't leaving my stuff there. Eva stayed in the car. My plan was to take the stuff and get the F away from my mother as fast as possible. Well, when my mum saw me, she went full, I knew you'd come back begging. I knew it's a bad idea to move in with that female dog. Chill, I'm just here for some things and then I'll see myself out. BS, you're just afraid to admit that you let such a filthy and disgusting dog into your life and now you regret it. She was referencing Eva's foreign background and in my mother's eyes, absolutely disgusting vitiligo. Oh, that is really unfair. Just please stop. I'm not in the mood for this. Keep it for yourself. I really love her. I'm happy being with her. She's my light in the darkness. True story, by the way. She has helped me through so much tough rubbish. What's so lovable about her? She has a mentality and a look of a freaking cow. Oh, shut the F up. You got a problem with her? Fine, have it. But don't you freaking dare ever voice it ever again. Don't talk to me like that. I gave birth to you. Like I'd care if you didn't. My mum mum was visibly shocked. "You're going nowhere with her. You're my child. You do as I say." "I'm an 18-year-old child. That means I can do whatever I want and you have no right to confine me here." This went on as I was packing up my stuff. I was now done packing and headed for the door. Well, she blocked my suitcases by her sheer weight and size, so I went towards the door to the backyard and went to the car through the gate, while hearing my mother throw insults directed towards me and Eva all around. When my mother was in sight of the car and Eva and I passionately kissed. Hopefully, so my mother finally realizes the resistance against our relationship is futile and just to annoy my mother. A few hours ago, I got a call from her. Knowing her, I was reluctant, but what if something bad was actually happening? "I've been thinking about you too. I won't lie, I hate her, but I see you like her, you're old enough. I'll get out of your way. Hopefully you'll be able to forgive me." I won't lie, I nearly broke down in tears there. I just replied something along the lines of, "We'll need some time." Then she ended the call. What could it be? My dad's speech about me and Eva? He's gotten to like Eva. My mother's realization that there's nothing she can do? Or something else? Well, my mother has hopefully finally found some sense in her and will find a way to get along with Eva without insulting her. But yeah, unlikely. She's probably just plotting something or wants to try a different approach. Oh wow, I wasn't expecting that last line. I thought it was all done, you know, but yeah, I guess that's why you say hopefully in your title. You're not exactly sure. I guess if OP doesn't trust his own mother, then I'm not going to trust her, but it does sound like she has, you know, turned over a new leaf, realized her mistakes, realized that you, her son, actually love this woman, so why doesn't she love her as well? You know, it's not up to her who her son loves, and you know, you should support your son if they love somebody, come on. But yeah, just going back to your last line, oh, maybe don't trust her because of all the things that she's done before, not just to you, but to Eva as well, especially. As I said earlier in the video, guys, I did read another one of this guy's stories the other day. To be fair, if you're still watching right now, you are a consistent viewer. You probably saw the video, know what I'm talking about. Thank you very much for that. But yeah, at that point anyway, I would be a little bit anxious to trust in her judgment right away and say for certain that she has turned over a new leaf. I'm not too sure. She's definitely very entitled. She's definitely very toxic. So yeah, you got to give it a bit of time, and I'm not entirely sure that she is a new person just yet. I have 10,000 followers on TikTok. I'm famous. My spoiled sister who refuses to get a job. Rant. I've always been on my little sister's butt trying to get her to work. Long story short, our parents made me get and keep a job at 15 or they threatened to kick me out. Now, while our parents spoil her and aren't pushing her to get a job, they'll suggest places for her to work, but never say get a job or get out like they did with me. She's 21, had a job for 2 months, walked out after deciding she didn't like it, and has never worked again after that, claiming trauma from her previous workplace as an excuse not to find a new job. She went to college for 1 semester, but quit after she realized the teachers/other students weren't going to do her homework for her. The moment anything involves effort on her part, she quits. She has zero work ethic. She's used to giving my parents puppy dog eyes and getting her way. Shocking when the rest of the world doesn't work like that. Last time we spoke, I told her she should be looking for work, even if it's part-time. My mum tried to get her a job. My mum's company needed temp checkers in their security gates. Part-time, 20 hours a week, $25 an hour, incredible opportunity for my sister. All she had to do was apply and she would have been given the job, but no. My sister instead said, "I don't need to work. My followers send me money. They buy me gifts too." That is not a stable income. What happens when you want to move out? You'll need a steady job. I have 10,000 followers on TikTok. I'm famous. My videos have almost 70,000 views. You need a lot more followers and views to be considered famous. Sure, right, like you know anything about TikTok. I may not use TikTok, but I know how being an influencer works. You need millions of followers. Whatever, this is just to hold me down until the big stuff happens. What big stuff? Oh, you know how it goes. TikTok is where agents discover talent. I'll be seen and I'll be found. An agent will get me a big job on camera and I'll be really famous. I'll make so much that I won't have to work, so shut up and stop bugging me about getting a job. You do realize that acting isn't an easy job? The days are long, longer than the typical 8-hour workday. There's makeup and costumes and doing scenes a million times until the director thinks you got it. I have a lot of theatre experience. I know it's not Hollywood, but acting is a tough job no matter where you're doing it. Oh, just shut up. She stormed off into her room and started crying, her typical behavior when someone won't tell her what she wants to hear. My dad and I got into an argument later about it. He says it's not right of me to crush her dreams. I'm not crushing anything, I'm being honest with her. Her followers have sent her a grand total of $384 since she started her TikTok a year ago. 2 followers sent her presents for her birthday after she posted a vid begging for gifts. I saw the vid. She claims that her family neglects her and forgets her birthday every year. She's not famous. She's not making anywhere near enough to claim she doesn't need to work. Her chances of getting discovered are nearly 0. She needs to get her head out of her own butt and take a realistic look at the world. But she won't because my parents coddle her and let her stay in her fantasy. This is a tough one, guys, because I get it. A lot of people who are youngsters now want to be famous on the internet or, create content that people want to see. I get that a lot of people want to do that, but you have to have some sort of realism. Firstly, unless you are just incredibly talented, like the top 0.00001% of people that are talented, entertaining, that sort of thing, you're going to find it very difficult to achieve any sort of success unless you are extremely lucky. Same with my case. I tried like 6-7 different other YouTube channels before this one. None of them worked at all, but like barely over 100 subscribers. You just got to get lucky sometimes and be in the right place at the right time, but that happens to a very few amount of people. You know what? 10,000 followers on TikTok, I must say, that is quite a good achievement. 10k followers is no mean feat, and to get that, it suggests that your sister is doing well. The problem with TikTok is that you can't really monetize the content on there that well at the moment unless you are a massive creator, and yeah, $380 or whatever, that's not going to pay the bills. The thing that I don't like about your sister, I'll be honest, is that she's turned down an insane job. What was it? $25 per hour for 20 hours a week. Just simple maths there, guys. What's that? $500 a week? That is pretty insane for doing a part-time job, I've got to be honest. A lot of people don't get that just usually. What was that? $500 a week for the entire year is what, 25k? That's pretty insane for someone that is so young and it's a part-time job. Hope I got the maths right there, Fab. That's kind of embarrassing, but yeah, she needs to have a little bit of a better attitude. Keep doing the TikTok, but that doesn't take up all your time. Do a job as well, get some money. By all means, keep doing the TikTok on the side because that is your passion, but yeah, getting money is quite important as well, let's just say that. Now for our next story. Guy hits on me during a funeral, gets embarrassed, and thinks he deserves a date. Sadly, one of my co-workers passed away last week. Because of COVID, the official funeral was very small and family only. So his department threw him a celebration of life/informal funeral at a park with some of his friends and family over the weekend. I wore a simple black dress and a black face mask. I get to the park and right out of my car, I feel eyes on me. I quickly head to my group, but about halfway there, a guy walks up next to me and starts sweet talking and complimenting my butt. I know this guy. He's a co-worker who clearly doesn't recognize me with a mask on. I pull my mask down and say, "Hey, great weather we're having," trying to embarrass him. He stutters and backs away from me. "What the heck, OP?" He shouted so loudly that most of the party looked at us. I rolled my eyes and continued into the funeral. After about an hour, he finds me again and tells me I owe him a date for embarrassing him in public. Really? You're using your departed co-worker's funeral to get a date? Suck my pee-pee. I made sure the surrounding people heard me. Co-worker got a bunch of nasty looks and left shortly after. He doesn't work in my building and I'm a little higher up on the food chain, so I literally have 0 F's to give about our interactions. Alright, I'll be honest, I'm all for shooting your shot. I mean, I'm not sure I'd personally compliment someone's butt when I've just met them, but to do so at a funeral? It's just, do you have like any awareness about your surroundings at all? Like, that's just not the place to do it. Your co-worker's just died, man. I can't even believe I have to say this to you, but why at a funeral of all places? Again, I don't mind having a go, but no, that's just not the done thing. OP, fair play for embarrassing this guy because he clearly deserved it, not only for complimenting your butt, but for doing it at a funeral as well. Just weird. And then afterwards saying, "Oh, you embarrassed me back there. Now you owe me a date." Yeah, you're not sure that's how it works, mate, but maybe I'm missing something here. It's just a very strange story. There's no way you deserve a date for being an idiot, is there? It's like, come on. Hey, I know our co-worker just died, but who cares about him? Let's go on a date. It'd be great fun. Come on. Now for our final story. Lady thinks she pays for us and refuses to wear a mask. This happened just a few days ago, and I really had to share this story because in times like these, the stupidity of some people really shows. I'm working now in a museum on a fortress. We finally could open again and still have a strict face mask rule. So you must wear a face mask while you are in the museum. It also is important to know that we have a rule. If people with the medical certificates who don't need to wear a mask want to come in, we ourselves have to decide if we let them in when there are already a lot of people in the museum, and they must show us the medical certificates and the ID because we had a ton of fake ones in the last few months. I was in the entrance area when a group of people came in, so I told them the usual stuff, that they have to lock their big backpacks into the lockers and put their masks on, please. They all followed this except for one woman. I told her that she should please put on her mask, but she responded with a why? I told her that is our rule in this building and it's for her own security. Then she claimed that she had a medical certificate, and of course I wanted to see it and her ID, but she refused. She then told me in a really not friendly way that she does not have a mask, and I said I can't let her in. But in our museum shop we now sell masks for a cheap price so she can get one there. She responded, but I don't want to buy a mask. It's okay, I haven't got sick in months. I told her that I don't care and that she must wear a mask or she should leave. And this was the point where she got really annoyed. She yelled at me that she bought the tickets and paid for them with her own money, and that she is the one who is responsible so that we get our money at the end of the month, and a whole bunch of BS. Luckily, my co-worker showed up, a very funny guy who sometimes wears a cap with a big white security on it. We are not actually security, but more like little guardians of the museum. He then told her in a fast, loud way, because he must have heard the whole thing, that it does not matter if she was here or not. Our fortress is in a state group as all castles and forts in this area are. We always have tons of people coming to us, and she is not special and does not pay us. And if she would not leave, he had to call the police and that they would be here fast and it would not be cheap for her. People who don't wear a mask, even when asked, can pay up to a €300 fine here. He said this in such a strong way that this woman just looked at him angry but also left. The best part of this was that she came back later with a mask on her face this time. You know what I find crazy is even after all this time, even after lockdown, even after, hundreds of thousands of people dying, people still don't understand that face masks are not to benefit you. Like, it's not about you not getting sick, it's about you not infecting other people. If everyone wore a face mask, the chances of everyone getting ill would go down, and they have gone down. So I don't know how people still don't understand this after such a long time. What I really hate about this story is that she keeps going on about her payment. Like, lady, if you're paying €10 to get into a museum, no one cares. It's not going to make much of a difference, is it? I mean, you've got thousands of people coming into this fortress, I assume, especially given what you and your security friend OP are saying. Yeah, that's just way too entitled. It sounds like she's saying that we pay your wages or she pays your wages, when in reality that is just the opposite of what happens. They could not care less if you came in, and to be honest, given your level of entitlement, lady, I'm pretty sure they prefer you not to come in again. And then the fact that at the end of the story you come back in with a face mask on, it just proves that you knew you were wrong all along. You were just trying to be difficult. Ugh, what an entitled woman. Entitled mum can't accept that her 3-year-old child isn't a prodigy. Hey, last week I started a job as a teacher. Perfect ground for finding entitled parents. Here's some background to start off with. I teach English to children, and while the school accepts children between 18 months and 12 years, my students are between the ages of 2 and 5. The school I work at only teaches English and has different levels based on your child's ability, where the teacher can use discretion to decide if the child can go faster or needs to slow down. Because of the coronavirus, the school also has mostly one-on-one lessons now, but because things are getting better where I am, the school also allows physical classes instead of online-only classes. I have this kid, we'll call him D, I'll call him Dan. He's a 3-year-old boy with a local Chinese father and a mother who is traditionally Chinese. Where I live, English is the primary language of most people, though the command of English is a little skewed with plenty of slang. Dan's father could speak in Mandarin to his wife, our entitled mum. The entitled mum, however, could not speak any English at all and was Mandarin speaking only. This is where problem number 1 is. While I am local Chinese, I only grew up with English speaking parents and grandparents, which meant I have almost no command of Mandarin even though I studied it as a second language for 12 years. Once I was out of school, my brain wrung out any knowledge of Mandarin like water out of a sponge. I can speak it at a barely conversational level, but I can't explain anything in depth. The second lesson Dan came for was also my first day working there. While I was briefed on the entitled mum, as she had been the one to sign Dan up for lessons, I was informed by my co-workers that Dan's father would be the one dropping him off and picking him up. This was good news for me, because when we let the child go at the end of the lesson, we take a few minutes to go through with the parents, guardians on what the child learned, what they did well, what they can improve on, along with any other recommendations for them like speeding up or slowing down. It's hard for me to explain any of that in Mandarin, so if Dan's father was the one coming to pick him up, then talking to him was simple. Unfortunately for me, that was absolutely not the case. On Dan's first lesson with me, his entitled mum was the one to drop him off. He's only 3 years old, so we were doing a foundation class with him where we basically teach him 1 letter per hour-long class, how to say and write it, what sound the letter makes, and some simple words that start with said letter. Given that that was his first time seeing me, he was almost entirely unresponsive to anything I said. He kept trying to go out and find his entitled mum. He would want me to open the door, and when I wouldn't because he couldn't just be running off, he'd try to shove his fingers in the gap in the door. He would not repeat after me or mimic my actions, and overall did not manage to learn much. I did manage to get him to say the 4 words that started with the letter B, but that was about all we managed to do in that hour. For all my Southeast Asian people out there, you know how our parents can be. You all also know traditional Chinese parents are even worse, and this entitled mum was just horrid. When I let Dan out to go back to his mum, she was at first cordial, asking how he did in the class and what he learned. I explained to her that because this was Dan's first lesson with me, he wasn't as responsive, but that he did manage to say the 4 B words taught to him. Now, during classes, we have 4 flashcards with the words they're supposed to learn, and we give these cards to the parents to keep in case they want to revise with their child at home. I prefer to give the cards to the kids to hold, to reinforce that it's their responsibility to keep the cards safe. Plus, it helps them develop their motor skills when they have to hold stuff. When I gave Dan his flashcards, the entitled mum snatched it out of his hand and immediately pointed to the first one, Bubbles, demanding loudly for him to say the word. Since Dan was no longer in an environment where it was just me and him, he clammed up and wouldn't say anything. His entitled mum saw that as my failure. Cue our first terrible conversation. You already know who the entitled mum and Dan are, and me is, well, I don't need to explain that. This conversation was in Mandarin, with me speaking in broken Mandarin. As a side note, I can understand Mandarin, but I can't really speak it. Another side note, parents aren't allowed to be in the classroom during lesson time. The entitled mum said to Dan, "What does this card say?" Dan didn't say anything. The entitled mum jabbed her finger into the card. "What does it say?" When Dan doesn't respond, I get a death glare from his entitled mum. "Why doesn't he know how to say it? What do I pay you for?" Mom, since this was his first lesson with me, I think he was shy and we didn't manage to get far in the material today. I assure you that, what do I pay you for? I sent him here so he could learn English. The entitled mum glares at Dan again and demands that he says Bubbles, but Dan is entirely clammed up and just shakes his head. Look, Mom, you need to understand that it was his first time seeing me and he's 3 years old. He was able to copy what I said during class and point at the pictures associated with words. Well then why can't he say it? Dan, tell me what this card says. Possibly because we're no longer in a quiet environment where it's just him with a teacher? He should warm up to me soon within the next class or 2 and become more receptive to the lessons. I'm sorry if the class today wasn't up to your standards, but please understand it is his first time with me. The entitled mum snorts at my comments, grabs Dan and stalks off. I share some words with my co-workers, mostly us complaining about the entitled mum, and my mentor confirming that she was just like that during Dan's very first lesson at the school with her. And that concluded my first time meeting the entitled mum. But oh no, we're not quite done. Now it's time for today's lesson. She was even more horrible this time. She showed up 10 minutes late, thankfully with Dan's father too, and released Dan into my care. Today, I taught him the letter C, including the words car, cat, cow, and crab. He was a lot more receptive now that I figured out that he was more into physical actions and was able to say all 4 words plus match the words to the pictures. The class itself was fun, but releasing him to his parents was not. Since Dan's dad was around, I spoke to him almost exclusively. I explained to him that Dan was doing well and became a lot more receptive to me and my lessons, but struggled with his penmanship since he couldn't get a good grip on a crayon and had a very light touch, so his movements were shaky. I also explained that he struggled to say car sometimes since he mixed up how it sounded with cow, but Dan's dad was very understanding. I recommended he guide Dan in how to properly hold a pencil at home, and Dan's dad relayed all this in Mandarin to his entitled mum. The entitled mum looked annoyed at me when Dan's dad mentioned to her my comments about Dan not being able to hold a crayon properly, but she said nothing. The school also gives the child the activity book to bring home, and Dan's book today had a page with a car drawing for you to cut out. My co-worker had cut out the entire page so she could cut out the car itself with ease, and the car was coloured in by Dan. The entitled mum only noticed the bit of the page that was still in the book and blew her fuse. Where is this page? How can you give him such a terrible book? Huh? Where is the page? Why did you give my son something so terribly made? Mom, that page was cut out because there's a paper car cutout we needed to use. Here, the car is right here. I flipped the book over to the front page where Dan's messily coloured car cutout was tucked between the cover and the first page. His entitled mum's rage subsided a little, but she gave me the nastiest death glare. Oh, so he couldn't even colour it properly. Humph. I wonder why I'm even paying you when you can't teach Dan how to colour a picture. Let me say, teaching children how to hold a pencil is not my job. It is the parents' duty, and if they only expected to practice for an hour every Saturday, that's their problem. It sounds nasty, but it's true. At this point, I'm exclusively speaking to Dan's dad and barely even looking at the entitled mum. She has also gone back to jabbing her finger at the flashcards, demanding that Dan say what the words are. The entitled mum was shaking the car flashcard in Dan's face. Say it! Say what this word is! Dan is visibly stressed, clutching his toy car and staring at his mum, but saying nothing. I decide to intervene. I point at Dan's toy car in his hands. Dan, do you know what that is? Dan immediately flashes me a big grin. Car! I clap for him and give him a high five, offering the entitled mum a smile that only makes her scowl deeper. I'm pretty sure her muzzle lines and crow's feet are permanent now. I also noticed that anytime she talks, Dan's dad looks at her with such tiredness in his eyes, like he's regretting his marriage now. I finished explaining to Dan's dad on my recommendations for him to practice his penmanship at home. He thanks me, while the entitled mum grabs Dan's wrist and yanks him off, stalking off like she's some femme fatale. The school admin apologizes to me for even convincing the entitled mum to sign Dan up, saying he knew she was going to be trouble during the sign-up process. I just say it's fine, pack up and leave. Now, 3 hours later, I'm sitting here writing this, thinking if the entitled mum keeps her trash behaviour up, she's gonna grow up with a son that hates her. I can't believe I have to see the entitled mum every Saturday now. I really hope she pulls Dan out, even though I love him dearly. She is just going to keep making trouble every single week and find some reason to throw a poop storm. I'm sorry this got so long, and thanks for reading. Being a teacher is just a great place for finding entitled mums like this, and I'm sure I'll have something new next week when I see her again. Jesus, that's quite a weird style of parenting, putting that much pressure on your 3-year-old son to perform exceptionally well in school. I've not heard of that before. Maybe I get it when kids are a little bit older, you know, teenagers, you say to them, you know, you need to start doing a bit better here, start working a bit harder. But a 3-year-old son, that is a new one for me. I think your title of this story though just explains the entitled mum's thinking. She clearly just wants her kid to be the best at everything compared to other kids in his age group. Perhaps to show off in her social circles, I don't really know, but yeah, clearly to her, second best is not good enough, and she wants her kid to be the absolute best to a weird extent that it's a little bit controlling and a bit toxic, I'll be honest. I don't know, but maybe she's just got to accept that not everyone's going to finish in first place or be the very best, because otherwise that just wouldn't really work, would it? That's not the way things work. Yeah, just let your kid grow on his own and get better at stuff. Again, he's 3 years old, and as you say at the end of this story, OP, you do not want Dan to end up hating his mum because she was such a controlling parent and forcing him to work super hard. I get it might be in the culture, but this is a next level of that sort of stuff, you know. And yeah, is it really worth it? I'm not sure it will really improve his academic performance anyway. Just let the teacher teach and let the parent, even though they may not seem like a very good parent to me anyway. Entitled Parent wants us to play child-friendly music. So, a little background because there isn't too much to tell. A few years ago, I was in a band with some friends. We mostly did covers of stuff like Kaiser Chiefs, Franz Ferdinand, Oasis, etc. Just British rock and stuff we like, with the occasional original song thrown in. We're not spectacular, but we're not that bad either. We didn't really do much in the way of shows, just local things like, oh, our secondary school wants a band and we're graduates, and just playing in the pubs near here in exchange for beer. Overall, it was a decent gig and just for a bit of fun. We go to a show at a local pub. Now they do allow kids in, but after 9 PM they do request that anyone with children leave, and it becomes 18+ for the night because they expect people to drink and stuff. At 9 o'clock they cut off food service to try and coerce families out, and if they don't leave by 9:30 they're usually told to leave. Now it's normally quite peaceful. I never saw anyone take umbrage with the rules. Until one night. So there's a family who enter at 8:55 PM. A mother, a father, a 5-year-old I think, and a baby in a pram. Now our show was advertised clearly outside. Tonight 9 PM band free entry, so pretty clear. The entitled mum of the family decides to order a big dinner for their children, to which they are told, the kitchens are shutting in 5 minutes, it's not worth it, etc. But they keep going on about how it's not 9 PM and blah blah blah, so the staff shrug and go fine and prepare some food. So we started playing at about 9:05 give or take, playing our normal set of stuff which isn't explicit or anything, it's just music. So for 15 minutes we are playing loudly, and the entitled parents baby starts crying. I don't know if it was our fault or not, no it definitely isn't. But the issue comes when we cover a particular song, Michael by Franz Ferdinand. It's a very gay song, but we like it and well, some of us are gay, so F it. We start singing and it's essentially a semi-explicit love song about wanting to shag a dude on a dance floor, and oh my god, the look on this 30-something woman's face. If looks could kill, I'd charge her with war crimes. Once the song is done, she gets up and storms over to us. How dare you play music like that? It's obscene, there are children here. Excuse me? It's just part of the normal set list, and no one else has issues with it. Sorry. At this point, the drummer and bassist are giggling like idiots. It's obscene, and you're trying to expose my child to homosexuality. No, we're not. We're just... The entitled mum cuts me off. No, you will let me finish. Your music, she said music in the same way most of us would say tapeworm, is obscene and should not be allowed in family establishments like this. Now everyone is looking. They're used to us taking about 30 seconds to talk to someone or have a quick drink of something in between songs, but this is something else. Before I respond, the bartender, I think he was the owner too, actually I can't remember, stepped in. Mom, you're interfering with the entertainment, and some other things about not having children, something about being an idiot to the waitstaff, etc. They argue back and forth, and oh my god. She eventually leaves with her family, but hisses that they've lost a customer for life. We did eventually go back to play at the bar a few times before university started, and the band broke up. Well, hey lady, you were warned when you entered the establishment. I'm not gonna lie, you came in with 5 minutes left until the 9 PM cutoff point for getting a meal anyway. I mean, that's just rude in itself. Honestly, I think the staff shouldn't have offered you a meal, to be honest. They should have just said, look, it's 5 minutes till we close anyway, and also there's gonna be a little bit of live music. Now guys, I don't know if you know what live music is, but it's music played live at the time. What does that mean? Well, there are instruments being played. What are instruments? Sometimes loud, usually loud, sometimes very loud. You have a baby with you. I don't think it's the best idea to go and listen to live music, is it? I mean, come on. It's a rock band, British rock band. It makes no sense to me. The one thing that is a little bit of a shame is that this band split up. I mean, it makes sense. Everyone goes off to uni, has their own things going on, but I don't know, I feel like it would have been nice for them to stay together and hopefully annoy a few more Karens in the future with their very loud music. Now moving on to our next story, entitled Translator Demands to be Paid. I have a business I often need translators for. I live in Poland, where the cost of living and jobs is much lower than the US. Now, I've found that many people don't even know the language as well that they claim to. For this, they claim to want everything that needs to be translated in advance for a few days. That's just not possible for the work I need. My work requires someone to be in front of me and read things online and explain what the comments, emails, messages are saying, and then type back whatever my response is. It's roughly 2 hours, 3 days a week, not a full-time job. I pay about $30 an hour, which is a lot for the country. It's interesting that you can find the same translators on English sites trying to sell for $45 to $60 an hour, compared to local local sites where it's just $10 an hour. Once I speak English though, their price goes up. I found a person on a site for $20 an hour and saw their LinkedIn and knew what company they worked for and how much they made there. They made roughly $600 a month full-time work. They also claimed to be from the country that I needed work translated from. I thought it would just be a great fit. So I said, hello, I need a Russian translator to meet with and read emails and messages, then just tell me what they say and then reply back to them. It will take 1 to 2 hours a day for about 3 days a week. Ongoing work. We could meet at Starbucks at the mall in the city centre and do it there. I don't need anything translated to paper and I don't need anything official stamped or whatever. I'm willing to pay $60 each time to do this. Time is flexible and I can meet any time in the day or the evening. Are you interested? An entitled parent responded, hello. Then she said nothing for an hour. So, are you interested in the job? Availability? Yes, I am, but I need to see everything first you need translated. That's just not possible. I need you to read it in front of me and explain and then reply. There's a lot of last-minute messages and emails that need to be responded to as fast as possible. Okay, I don't know how much it will cost. I will have to tell you after I see everything. I'm offering to pay by hour, above your rate you claim to offer live translation services. Is this for a company? For my company, but it's not a full-time position. 3 days a week, paid for 2 hours at $30 an hour. I see. Again, she said nothing for hours. So? Okay, I will need to tell you what the price is after I see it. Will we meet at your business? I already explained what I'm offering and explained where we will meet, in a public place at Starbucks in the mall. I do not know if that's safe. Excuse me? It's Starbucks in the mall. Would it be safer meeting at a private office in a building you don't know? I don't know you. Okay, well, good luck finding work then. I'm a girl and don't know who I'm meeting. I don't even respond. I figure it'll be a pain in my butt, so I don't even care. On to the next day. She says, when we meet, I will tell you how much you need to pay. No, we won't even meet. Your English is horrible. You can't even understand what I'm asking for now. Goodbye. I need the work and you texted me and I need to be paid. No. I need the money. I can meet you there. But you can't agree on the price I'm offering, which is more than the price you listed online. Yes. What do you mean, yes? Yes, I do not agree. I will tell you how much you will pay each time. Oh my god. I will tell you how much you will pay each time. What am I reading? No, again, good luck in finding work. But I need the money. You have a job? I need extra money. My job does not pay enough. Goodbye. Oh, this is going round in circles now. On to the next day. Will we meet today? Hello? I will do the work for $100 an hour. You owe me $100 for the time I spent texting you. Question mark, question mark, question mark. You hired me and now won't answer? Question mark, question mark. $70 then and I will not report you. More question marks. Really, this is the worst one I've dealt with. Oh, I mean, really, I don't know whether to laugh or cry at this. I mean, come on, you claim to be a translator and you can't even understand or speak English well enough to understand what this man is offering you as his rate. I mean, come on. Coming back with, I will do the work for $100 an hour, when you said on your website, what was it? You said like 10 or 20 online. Then he said, okay, you know what? I'll do one better. I'll give you 30 for an hour, which by the way is a pretty good price, I would say. Like an amazing price. Then you come up with 100, like what are you doing? Clearly you're not meant to be a translator, especially not when you're dealing with English language, that's for sure. Oh, this lady, I would say to you, just find a new job and something you actually can do, something you might have some sort of skill for, not translation, that's not for you. Now moving on to our final story of today's video, entitled Neighbor Thinks He Can Bring Whoever He Wants to Our House. Our neighbor and us have a very similar house. Probably the only difference is the furniture and decorations. So he's trying to rent his house and there are 2 old couples living there. Now what he thinks is the best solution is to literally just bring some random strangers who are going to become our neighbors in a few days to our house instead to show them around while we're having our lunch because our house is similar to his. Now, 4 of us live in this house, 2 people live in the other one, so it's way more of an inconvenience here than his house, and he needs to take his time to explain to them the small differences between our house and his house. The most F thing is none of them even had a mask on and weren't maintaining social distancing. Now, this wouldn't have been an issue on another day, but during the pandemic, it's so effed. I asked my parents why they allowed him in, and their reply was, well, he didn't even ask us or inform us, he just walked in like it's his house. Like, dude, that's trespassing. What the heck? Yeah, that's very strange. Like, I can't lie. I'm not quite sure why you wouldn't just say to the old couple that are already living in your house, oh, you know, you're leaving soon, I'm going to rent it out to new people. They're going to come and have a look and see if they like it. That's normally the way house viewings work. I mean, when I went to see houses for my house back in uni, we went to see it while people were still living in it, because obviously people live in houses one at a time. You know, I don't understand that at all. It's really strange. You're also not wrong. I mean, it's a little bit far to say it's trespassing, but yeah, technically it is trespassing. You haven't allowed him to come in. He's just walked in with these random people, and especially the fact that they're not wearing masks, that makes it even worse. So, overall, pretty weird neighbor you got there. I don't really know what you can do about that. Entitled parent tries to steal $25,000 from her teenage daughter. So, for some background info, when I was 12 years old, I was hit by a drunk driver while crossing the street. I managed to survive with a few stitches and completely busted legs. My entitled mum refused to take me to get physical therapy because she didn't think I needed it. Anyway, so the case went on and I was awarded $25,000 that was supposed to be with the bank getting interest. Well, at 16 years old, I moved out, and after getting treatment for some of my trauma disorders, we finally made the big step and called the lawyer. No pooping bricks. So the lawyer told us that a few months before, my mum contacted her asking to have the money put with her bank. Now that seemed fishy, so the lawyer asked for my email address to contact me to make sure this is what I wanted. Well, surprise, surprise, I didn't know about it. The lawyer essentially gave my mum a big F you. After the lawyer told us the story, she said, "In all my years, I have never had a parent try to steal a kid's money after getting hurt. Leave it up to my mother to be one of a kind in the worst way possible." Yeah, not really too sure what to say about this one, guys. Stealing 25k, or at least attempting to steal 25k from your children. Kind of reminds me of yesterday's episode when we talked about, you know, stealing money from your children, but that wasn't stealing, that was just asking for money. This is literally stealing or attempting to steal, and it's not a small amount of money. It's a quarter of 100k, guys. I mean, I can't stress that enough, that is mad. And also, it was because this person got hit by a car. It's damages. That's just mental. Now moving on to our second story, entitled mum tells her 5-year-old, "You ruin every family outing" at a pumpkin patch. It's now a family tradition to say this to a family member if they're acting out or something goes wrong. Okay, so I come from a large family, and one of the things we enjoy is getting together to take the kids to the pumpkin patch, and then meet up at my big sister's house for stew, carving, and dessert. We've missed doing this the past 2 years, but that's another story. This happened in, I want to say, about 2012-ish. My family had all met up at one of our local pumpkin patches, and we were standing in line for kettle corn, hot dogs, hot chocolate, and caramel apples. You know, pumpkin patch snacks. Now, most of us had already finished with finding our pumpkins, and decided to grab snacks before getting lost in the corn maze. While we're standing there, we hear this woman, the EM, saying things very loudly. "You are unbelievable, knock it off," etc. We all just kind of look at each other like, uh-oh, someone's in trouble, but we didn't see where it's coming from right away. I then look over and see my best friend, we'll call her Amy, with her daughter, we'll call her Heather, 10 years at the time. They were kind of rushing towards us with this crazy look of what the F on their face. I noticed they don't have their pumpkins yet. Couldn't find any good ones? Amy said, "Oh my god, no, we stopped looking because it was getting crazy over there." Huh? What do you mean? The 10-year-old Heather looked at Amy and said softly, "Mum, can we maybe get pumpkins later? You know, like after they leave?" "They" was whispered even more, followed by her giving a quick glance back to the area they just left. Amy said to her daughter, "Sure, sweetie." Then she looked at me and says in a hushed tone, "There's some lady over there yelling at some little girl. I think it's her daughter, but the girl is just crying that she wants some other pumpkin her dad got." Amy then continued to tell me that this little girl couldn't be more than 5 years old, and she just keeps saying, "No, I want daddy's pumpkin," to the entitled mum, but her mum is not having it. Apparently, the child was firm and kind of soft-spoken at first, and the mum seemed like she was trying to hush the situation. But when the girl wouldn't give in, the entitled mum lost it and started yelling things like, "Knock it off, just quit already." Both Amy and Heather were standing fairly close to them, and when the entitled mum lost it, it made Heather jump and rush to Amy for protection. Amy told Heather, let's go find OP and see if she wants to help us pick one out. Heather agreed and they rushed over to me. I looked down at Heather and asked if she wanted to do the corn maze first and then we could go get her a pumpkin. She was happy about that. Then I asked her if she wanted a hot chocolate and started asking her if she wanted to go stand with my mum and my little brothers, so she didn't get bored standing in line. That is when we heard the entitled mum start yelling again. But this time she was marching past us, dragging her daughter by the arm. No, not literally dragging, we would have stepped in if we saw that. So she's pulling her daughter out of the pumpkin patch and heading towards the exit and parking lots, all the while she's making these loud grunting exasperation noises. And my whole family is watching on, trying to figure out what is happening. To be honest, everyone at the patch within earshot of this woman is watching. Then it happens. She pauses slightly in her grunting rampage towards the exit, long enough to look at this 5-year-old child and say, "You've ruined every family outing," and then continues towards the exit. We all just look at each other in shock, and then something else, perfect timing, happens. My son, who was 12 years old at the time, wasn't looking where he was going because he was distracted by the entitled mum as well. He trips slightly on a hay bale and drops his hot chocolate on the ground. I looked at him and with a huge smile on my face, yell, in the most obnoxious entitled mum voice I can muster, "Oh my god, you ruined every family outing." All I could hear was laughter. I looked over at the entitled mum and she was frozen in place for a minute before turning red and running out to the parking lot. No one clapped. It was just funny to those who witnessed her behaviour. And yes, my son laughed too, he knew I was not serious. So now it's a family tradition to use this phrase anytime our family is together and something happens. My sister burnt the stew one year. I forgot a Christmas gift at home once. My son tripped and knocked a gaming system over, turning it off. Pretty much anything going wrong anytime gets this phrase, it just never gets old. Oh, I love this, you know, just making light of a bad situation. I mean, the fact that this woman is telling a 5-year-old, their daughter, that you've ruined a day out is pretty crazy. I mean, they're 5 years old. That sort of behavior cannot go unnoticed, and that is why it was so important that you just took the mick out of her right there and then. Everyone laughed. She knew she'd effed up because she ran away, probably embarrassed, and hopefully, yeah, she has learned the lesson not to castigate her 5-year-old daughter for doing something that any normal 5-year-old would do, have a bit of a tantrum. I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, you obviously got to reprimand your daughter in some way, but not publicly in front of everyone saying you ruined the entire day. That is mental. Now moving on to our final story of today's video, entitled Mummy. My kids and I are moving into your house, and as a compromise, I'm gonna let you live there too. I'm a 32-year-old woman and I just bought my first house. It has 3 bedrooms, a yard, and it's just what I need right now. I'm single and have 2 dogs and a cat. My sister is 34, has 3 children, and lives in a 2-bedroom apartment. Lately, she's been talking about how such a tiny living space is not enough for the 4 of them. When she got to know about the house I had bought, she became very upset and told me I was being wasteful, as I'm single and don't have kids and therefore don't need such a big space. I reminded her that what I do with my hard-earned money is none of her business. She went on to complain to our mother about how selfish I was being. Yesterday evening, I got a call from my mum telling me I should let my sister and her kids move into the house. My house. I told her that no one was going to live in the house that I paid for but me, and that extra space would be great for my dogs to play in. My mum also got very upset with me and told me I was being unreasonable. That my sister's kids are growing and need the space more than my dogs. I offered to help my sister out financially so she could rent a bigger place. My mum got my sister on the phone, who shot down the idea, telling me I needed to let her and her kids live in my house. When I refused again, she very generously suggested a compromise. I could live in the house with her and her kids and would not have to find somewhere else to live. She said this as if she was doing me a favor. I told her she had lost her mind and hung up. However, my mum and sister kept on pestering me, with my mum trying to guilt trip me by telling me that my sister had been crying. She wanted so badly to live in a nice house like mine. I got fed up and decided to shame them. I made a post on Am I the Butthole about this, and of course, most of the commentators could hardly believe how entitled my mum and sister are. They got bashed pretty badly. After getting the verdict from AITA, I decided to send my sister and mum a link to this post, letting them know that I had made it. As expected, they freaked the F out. My mum texted and called many times telling me what a horrible daughter I am and how I've embarrassed her in front of so many people. I told her to calm down, as these are all strangers on the internet who have no idea who she is. But asking my mum to listen to reason is like asking my cat to stop shoving things off of horizontal surfaces. So I told her I'd talk to her when she's willing to act like an adult. My sister has been crying about this to my mum and any other relative who will listen. Most of them won't. They had been on my side from the start and had agreed that my sister's demands were ridiculous. They think this whole thing is hilarious. And you know what, guys? So do I. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I really want to read out that post from Am I the Butthole, but I haven't done a video on it in so long. If you can get this video to 5,000 likes in the first 12 hours, I know that's quite hard, but 5k likes in 12 hours and I will cover that exact post in tomorrow's video. If you can hit that like target, just so I have some sort of guarantee that you are going to be interested in the video, because that'd be amazing. I mean, we know what happens, but still, I want to read through the comments, see what people are thinking, because this is just one crazy post. I think the idea of using Reddit to get back at someone, or just, you know, in a more general sense, posting someone's entire story on social media to try and embarrass them when they are doing something that is so horrible like this, is a great way of getting back at someone, you've got to admit, because this makes no sense, right? I mean, why would you want to move in with someone? Well, not why would you want to. Why should you force your way into moving in with someone who's spent money themselves, earned money themselves, and got a nice house for themselves when you can't afford to do that because maybe you've not worked hard enough, or, you know, you just chose to have children? That's not the way it should work, you know. You've chosen to have children, which is one thing, but that means you're probably going to not be able to afford a nicer house. It's just the way it works. I don't know, like, overall, I don't really understand why your mum's getting involved in this in the first place, and I think your sister is just as entitled as your mum. What a lovely pair of women, that's all I'll say. Entitled mum thinks I have to give her child my skateboard. So this happened a few days ago. I like to skateboard, and recently I decided to get back at it and got a new board, since it's been years since I've been out skateboarding. I went to the skate shop and got me a new board, and since I had a lot of time to spare and I was already outside, I thought I'd take advantage and go to the nearest skate park to test it out and have a bit of fun, since I've been in lockdown with a lot of pent up energy and stress, haven't we all? So I went to the skate park. Now, next to this skate park there's a playground, so it's common for kids to invade the skate area that is already horrible, to the point that skateboarders had to add obstacles to the park to skate. I skated for a while and sat down for a bit to rest, since I'm out of shape and not used to skating anymore like before. I sat on one of the benches at the skate park with the board under my feet, trying to catch my breath again. The park was kinda empty since it was around 3 PM and we're in the middle of Miss Rona. There were a few kids on the playground and on the skate park. So one kid comes to me mesmerized at the skateboard and asks me if he can take a ride on it, since they never had a skateboard before and he liked it a lot. I wasn't using it, so I let him skate for a while until I was good enough to go back to use the skateboard. In the past, I skated a lot in this park, and a few kids in the past have asked if they could use my skates, or switch skates, or even skate together, especially little girls, since I'm a girl and they are not used to see girls skateboarding. I said, sure, go ahead. I'll go buy a bottle of water and I'll be right back. Take care of it, okay? The kid said okay and started to skateboard. There's a bar kind of thing in front of the park, so I went there to buy a bottle of water and I kept my eye on the kid in the park. I went back and sat on the bench again. The kid came to me asking for help for some stuff, like pushing and going on some ramps. I didn't want him to get hurt, so I taught him how to push properly and to bend his knees when you skate up a ramp. He skated for a bit more until he gave it back to me and thanked me, and now here is where the problem begins. When the kid gives me back the skateboard, his entitled mum comes up to me and starts, "So you were the one who gave my son the skateboard?" Yeah, I lended it to him for a while since he asked politely. Well, if he was polite, why didn't you let him stay with it? I was confused, so I answered, I don't understand. Give my skateboard to him? Yeah, you weren't even using it, so you don't need it. I'm sorry, Mum, but I can't do that. I bought it for me to get some exercise, and I don't know you. Even if I did know you, the skateboard is mine. I can't give it to your son. She scoffed like she wasn't believing me. How dare you be such a brat? My son has never had a skateboard, and you saw how happy he was using it. You could buy him one. Skateboards for beginners are not that expensive, and it's a great investment. No, I want you to give him yours. Can't you stop being selfish? Just give it to him and buy another one for you. This was getting out of hand, so I stood up and kept talking politely to her. Mom, again, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can recommend you a skate shop here with good prices though. But I couldn't even finish the phrase as she tried to get the skateboard from my hand. So I hugged the board to get out of her reach and told her to stop. Where are your parents? I want to talk to them and tell them you're not giving my son what's his. I'm 19 and have a baby face, but I work. I'm an artist and get all my money from commissions, and I was done with this woman. Mom, we are both adults. If I got this skateboard because I worked for it and paid for it with my own money, I'm not going to give it to your son. You can buy one for him if you want. I'm not a charity centre to give my things out to strangers. The woman tried to get my skateboard again, but this time I was so done and annoyed that I put it on the floor and skated out of the park. She kept yelling how I was selfish and was not giving her son my skateboard and how I stole from her son. I was tired and done. I left the park on my board so I could go fast enough so that the entitled mum wouldn't come after me. It's kind of a shame in this one. I feel like this entitled mum just ruined the entire experience for her kid. The kid seemed like super polite, you know? Came up to Opie, asked politely if they could have a go on the skateboard, had a go, didn't break it, you know, asked for help even, and then when they were done just gave it back and they were done with it. Just very grateful for the opportunity. Whereas the entitled mum clearly just ruined that entire experience, as I said, and then said, oh yeah, you need to give it to my son now. I mean, why? No one ever thinks like that, come on. You know, part of me feels like you honestly should have just picked up your skateboard, cocked it back, and then smashed the entitled mum with it. Although that is probably a terrible idea and is obviously assault. So yeah, don't do that in the future. That's the kind of way that you may want to deal with an entitled parent at some point in your head. But yeah, obviously don't do that in real life. That was a little bit extreme, wasn't it? Yeah, OP, what you did was very calm and collected. Fair play. That's better than what I would have done, clearly. Oh, and by the way, guys, a lot of you were asking me about the coloured Redditor t-shirts because I didn't have any photos of them last time around. But you know, I'm wearing one right now. Let me know what you think. You can see the design. It's a little bit different on the coloured tees. We've got red, pink, yellow, green, blue. Just go and check them out. They're really cool. I'm not actually going to lie. These might be my favourites. Link to these, as always, is in the description, the pinned comment, and in the merch shelf down below. It's super simple to go and check them out. Yeah, please do. Now moving on to our second story. Entitled Aunt tried to use my parents to steal from me. Now, I honestly never thought that my parents would be stupid enough to be caught like this. They've never done anything like this to my other siblings, but hey. This incident happened because my aunt decided to lie and try and steal from me. What a lovely aunt you have right there. So, a few years back, I moved out of the family home and I bought my own home. A nice little place I could call my own and do my own crazy ideas that I couldn't really get away with before. Naturally, I'd given my parents a spare key just in case there was an emergency or I forgot to return something. Now, after a while of living on my own and saving a few quid here and there, I managed to get my gaming room / nerd cave all set up. Me and my old man built a custom desk so I could have my Xbox, my computer, and my Switch. It's not a fancy setup like I've seen online, but I love it, even more that the desk is mine. There are a few wobbly cuts, paint's not dried like I thought it would, but it's perfect to me. So naturally, after finishing it and testing it, making sure that things were in reach when I sat down, I had to show off. So a few pictures were taken and shared online, because the internet is mainly for bragging and showing off, yeah, you're right. I had a message from my aunt saying that as I'm an adult, I shouldn't be playing silly games and that I should give her kids the Switch. Naturally, I said no, but I promised if I got bored with it, I will message her offering the first chance to buy it. I don't think she approved as she left me on red. Well, imagine getting left on red by your aunt. That is mad. That all happened at the start of the year, but then the pandemic hit and I thought nothing more of it. Now, after most of the year being on furlough, restrictions are easing off and I'm back at the office working. The other day, I got a call from my mum. She's at my place with my auntie to pick up the Switch I'd promised to my cousins. Now, I had let a friend of mine borrow it because him and his wife were thinking about one and wanted to try it. I told my mum, just wait, I'm finishing in a few minutes and I'll be there. I get home and sure enough, I see mum's car and my auntie's car. I burst through the door and make mum and auntie jump. I say, looking at my aunts, "What do you bloody think you're doing here?" "I'm here for that Switch. You said I could have it." I said if I get rid of it, I'll sell it to you. My mum said, "But you told me you bought it off of him." "Well, it ain't here." "Well, I'll take the other thing." I started walking to her before mum calmed me down. "Get out now, and I never want to see your face here. If I do, I'm calling the police." My aunt quickly left, and mum started apologizing to me and told me how my aunt said she had bought it off me, but she had also said that we were struggling to organize a time for her to pick it up. I looked at her, and all I could say was, "I want my spare key back." Now I'm being bombarded by my sister and brother about how I made my mum cry. But I asked them, how would you like it if mum was going through your stuff and giving away your expensive belongings? Yeah, OP, I'm not gonna lie, I think you're being a bit harsh there. Your mum only had it in everyone's best interest. I mean, I assume that you can trust your aunt, it's her sister. She probably believes that she can trust her, but she just got it wrong on this occasion. It wasn't your mum's fault though. I mean, your aunt did say to her, this is a transaction that we have actually agreed on, so your mum would be a bit weird to say, no, I'm not gonna, agree with you. I'm not gonna help you out in making that transaction happen and helping you going to get the Switch. Yes, I get what you're gonna say. I can read the comments already, guys. I know you're all typing down there. I know what you're gonna say. Maybe the mum should have checked with OP first, and that is probably what I would have done. But this is definitely not your mum's fault. And OP, you definitely shouldn't have got at her and taken away the spare key and making her cry. That was a bit of a D move, let's just say that. But, moving on to your aunt, yeah, very entitled woman. Nothing more I can say about her apart from the fact that she is crazy and entitled and a bit manipulative, well, a lot manipulative, very toxic, and ultimately she is a thief. Like, if you're trying to steal something, even from your family member, you are a thief. I'm sorry to say that. Guys, comment down below. Is OP... I don't want to use a bad word here, but is OP a bit up himself, a bit arrogant perhaps, a bit short fused, a bit short tempered, just because I don't know how you could possibly have a go at your mum here. I've said it already. She's trying to be nice to the family, trying to be nice to her sister, and ultimately trying to be nice to you because she is helping the aunt get the Switch when you're not there. So I don't see the problem with that. Yes, you got it wrong, but, it wasn't that much of a bad deal, was it? I'm just reading through the comments, and everyone's like, oh, your mum was foolish to believe her. No, put this in a real-world perspective where you don't know that your aunt is entitled, and just think, if you have a sister that you've known for, let's say, 40 years plus, you're probably going to trust them. I mean, like, it's just a common human thing to do, is trust your sister. So I don't understand why the comments are getting at her here. I'm not getting at her at all. I think, as I've already said, that OP went a bit too far. But yes, of course, your aunt is entitled. Just don't speak to her again. Pretty simple. Kids running riots in Tesla showroom. Post complaining about it gets swarmed by entitled parents. I'm not sure if this post is allowed, but I need to let off some steam. So I'm currently in the process of looking at getting an electric vehicle. In the UK, there's a massive tax incentive to get one at the moment, and it makes them very reasonable. I visited Hyundai and Nissan showrooms this weekend and test drove a couple of cars, and the staff have been helpful, explaining about the cars and being very friendly. So we go to Tesla last weekend and there are kids running riots. Kids sat in the cars playing with the screens while their parents take pictures of them. So I don't get to spend much time with the car, which is annoying having travelled an hour to get there. I do have a test drive booked, however. Following this, I make a post on the Tesla subreddit discussing my experience, and pretty much universally, I'm downvoted and attacked for being a miser. People were saying how kids will be kids, how kids should have priority over me because they might be able to convince their parents one day, how I don't know what I'm talking about because I don't have kids, I can see bad parenting when I see it, and just general unpleasantness. I don't get this modern day thing of kids being able to do what they like. When I was a kid, I wouldn't be able to run riot in a car showroom. And let's have a look at this actual post. Okay, so here you can see it on the Tesla subreddit, kids running riot in Tesla showroom. Let's go into the comments then. Let's see what the comments are saying. I really want to know, what would you have Tesla do? Ban kids? Control the kids? Control the parents? Lasers? It is unfortunate that you had a bad time at the showroom, but I feel like that's how any store is. I learned to live with the fact whenever I go to Apple stores. Now I kind of see what OP is saying here. I don't agree with this comment at all. Like, surely you just get the parents or just expect the parents to control their own kids and not run around affecting potential buyers like the original OP. I don't understand this. Another comment. kids. This isn't something that happens often in my experience. Sorry you had a bad visit. Ugh, I can't believe you made a post about kids playing. I can't wait for your post about the Tesla experience of owning later. OP actually replied to this one. So you think kids should be running around car showrooms stopping potential buyers from being able to spend time with the car? You think kids should be able to do what they like? Okay, look, overall, I completely get it. Look, I'm not completely sure I agree with OP here. I think that it's bound to happen that kids are going to be with their parents and they're going to be running around excited by Teslas. They're very exciting cars. They've got like big old screens in them. That's exciting for a kid. You know, it's going to happen. But I do also see what OP is saying, that it is probably annoying for him when he goes to buy a Tesla and he can't even sit in one because there are kids messing about and affecting his, ability to buy a car or test a car as well. It's a tough one though, it's a tough one. Overall, I'd say that although some of the replies in the r/Tesla subreddit were pretty entitled as we saw, overall, I kind of get that kids will be kids, it's not that deep. Now moving on to our second story. Now this actually comes from r/EntitledKids. Entitled Kid gets bad grade on final projects and tries to sabotage my final project, featuring a little bit of r/Pro revenge. Love to hear that. For some backstory, this story happened during my senior year of high school during 2011, and this entitled kid has been a thorn in my side. Now this has been going on since the day she decided that she was better than me, due to her having money and being able to flash her expensive stuff around and being popular because she was a cheerleader. It was the 3 months before the end of the school year, and we were told by Mrs. B as class starts that we would be assigned into groups to work on our final projects, or we can work individually. I didn't mind working in a group, so I let Mrs. B group us up. Okay then, Group 1 will be students 1 to 4, Group 2 will be students 5 to 8, Group 3 will be the entitled cheerleader, OP, and student 9, Group 4 will be EK, the entitled cheerleader's friend, and student 10. The entitled cheerleader raises her hand. Miss B? Yes? She flips her blonde hair over her shoulder. I don't want to work with OP. Can I work with my friend instead? We had a great idea for our final project. Well, I can't keep letting you switch groups all the time, and OP is a very nice person. Why don't you want to work with her? Because she rarely ever contributes to class and just sits there like a mute. Maybe she doesn't feel like talking. You shouldn't judge someone just because they don't want to talk. Look, it's okay, Miss B. I don't mind working independently. The entitled cheerleader and her entitled friend stare at me with a surprised Pikachu face, as if it's their first time hearing me talk. Miss B asks, OP, are you sure? I'm sure. Look, it might take a bit longer for me to finish, but I'll get it done by myself. Okay, if you say so, and she walks over and writes down all the groups and the names of who's in which group, while the entitled cheerleader and her friend give me smug looks. Everyone breaks off into their groups, thinking of what they plan on doing for their projects. I pull out my notebook and start writing down possible ideas for my project, until Anna, the class aide, walks over and sits down by me and whispers, "Hey, the entitled cheerleader and the entitled kid are staring at you." I know, I saw them smirking at me when Miss B turned her back to write the names on the whiteboard. I hope whatever it is they're planning doesn't involve messing up your project. If something happens to my project, they'll be my main suspects. Miss B calls Anna over to her desk and asks Anna to deliver a pass for her, leaving me to my thoughts. I write down several ideas and spend most of the class trying to make the idea good, until the entitled cheerleader raises her hand and asks, Miss B, can our final project be a counting game? It can be whatever you want it to be. A counting game, a storybook, board game. As long as it's creative, child appropriate, and can hold a preschooler's attention, it's fine. When Miss B said storybook, it helped me think of what I could turn my project into. It brought back a memory of 5th grade, where I was asked to create my own story. So I started creating my characters and the storyline. I get halfway through the story when Miss B reminds everyone that if they want her to look over their first draft, to bring it up to her desk and she'll give her opinion on it. So I walk up and show her the part I've finished currently. Miss B looks it over and tells me it's a good start, and if I needed her to look over the full story, I just have to show it to her the next day and she'll proofread it. Later that afternoon, after I get home from school, I spend most of the time focused on the story before tackling the rest of my homework. The next day, I have the full story written out and hand it to Miss B for proofreading. She gives me advice on where I could improve/change to keep the kids' attention, but overall, the mistakes were minor. So I go and type up the full story, save it to my flash drive, important for later, and start making the booklet that will be holding the book together. I use the paper cutouts provided in the classroom for most of my characters. I slightly changed the storyline a bit when I realised she didn't have the proper cutout for certain characters, and I made the cutouts myself as best I could. Before cutting out the paragraph and gluing it to the page it's supposed to go with, drawing emotions so everyone can see how the characters are feeling, etc., I noticed that all the while the entitled cheerleader and her entitled friend aren't actually working on their projects. They're just laughing, chatting and giggling amongst themselves and occasionally glaring at me. About a week into us starting our projects, I'm mainly focused on the cutouts, so that's when I went to glue them into the booklet so it wouldn't take too long, since I'm gluing the cutouts in with glue sticks, not the bottle white glue. I walk into class and head to our assigned cubbies that were given to us to store our papers, or in this case, final project, only to find most of the cutouts missing. I look all over for the cutouts and even ask Anna or Miss B if they moved them. Now neither of them had touched my cutouts, but then Miss B remembers that the entitled cheerleader, along with their entitled friend, were hanging out nearby when she opened the classroom door, since we had lunch before class. Then we smell the strong smell of glue and follow it to the trash, where we find all my now ruined cutouts. Anna thinks it was the entitled cheerleader and her entitled friend who did it, but since we didn't have proper proof, we couldn't pin the blame on them, even though they were the ones near the classroom. So I have to redo the cutouts, draw in the emotions, and have it ready to glue on. Then at the end of class, instead of leaving it in my assigned cubby, I brought it home with me. A couple weeks later, I'm working in the pages and made duplicate cutouts, just in case the entitled cheerleader decided to sabotage them again. But for that week, I couldn't work on the project because I was going to be volunteering for a church event from Friday and the weekend, and I had to leave the pages I finished in my cubby. The following Monday, I find out that half the pages I finished were once again ruined, and this time I hear the entitled cheerleader whispering to her friend. She's gonna have to retype all that stuff again. I'm getting very annoyed at them for once again ruining my stuff, so I say out loud, "It's okay, Miss B. I've got the missing parts of the paragraph saved onto my computer at home. I'll just print them off and glue them on when I get home." Which was a lie, because during my next class, study hall, I went and printed out the part that was missing and glued it onto the pages I had to remake. Then came the day we were supposed to present our projects in front of the whole class. The entitled cheerleader and her entitled friend had signed up to present theirs along with a few other groups. The other group's project was pretty good and caught my attention, but when it was the entitled cheerleader and her friend's turn to present, I immediately lost interest just after looking at it. Now all they did was draw 3 to 4 large sheeps onto a cardboard piece they were given and glued a bunch of cotton balls to resemble wool and said, "Now kids, how many sheeps are on the cardboard? Let's count them together. 1 sheep, 2 sheep, 3 sheep, and what comes after 3? 4, that's right, 4 sheep, yay!" Nobody was impressed, and even Miss B had suggested that they do something more creative, but they didn't, so she gave them a C, and they weren't happy since they claimed to have worked hard on their project, and it deserved an A, not a C in their opinion. Then came time for me to present mine, and as I walked to the front of the class, I was very nervous because I hated doing presentations, and I'm a soft-spoken person, so if I get scared, I start whispering. My project is a storybook I wrote called Marie and Her Special Birthday Party, I say. The entitled cheerleader rudely says to her entitled friend, "Oh my god, this is putting me to sleep." I hear them, but I don't let it bother me, and I start reading. Now, as I'm reading, I become more comfortable. Then I hear the entitled cheerleader cough loudly. Now this causes me to stop and look at her, then gesture for her to be quiet and respectful as she should have been, only for her to roll her eyes at me. I brush it off and continue reading. Now I'm halfway through my book when the entitled kid starts whispering to the other members of her group, "I bet all her characters are all Asian and just eating dog meat for their meal, and it's not really American food." Jesus, that is horribly racist. I look up at them and ask, "Is there something you'd like to say to the whole class? Since I noticed that you and the entitled cheerleader have been whispering this whole time. If you'd like to read the book instead, I can hand it off to you." This shut them up for the rest of my presentation. After I finish, Miss B pulls me to the side and congratulates me for not letting the entitled cheerleader and her entitled kid or any of the group distract me, and tells me I got a B since she did have a hard time hearing me at certain parts. But overall, I did much better than the entitled cheerleader. Again, sorry this story is long, but I was happy that I got a better grade than the entitled cheerleader and her entitled kid friend. And yeah, you know what, OP, that is thoroughly deserved, because there is nothing worse than doing a presentation which makes you nervous. I assume the majority of us, it makes us nervous at the best of times, but then you get an entitled classmate talking over you, you know, distracting you, just being overall rude. That's not nice, is it? So yeah, you totally deserve the better grade than her. And also, you know, just making a storybook about a sheep, putting some cotton wool on it, and then making children count to 4 sheep. That doesn't inspire me with any sort of confidence in the fact that that is a good project, and yeah, probably deserved at the very best to see. So yeah, overall, I think you definitely got what you deserved, and so did the entitled cheerleader and our entitled kid friend. Entitled aunt finds out I'm engaged, freaks out when she realizes who to. I've been meaning to make this for a while, and it happened about 7 years ago, and it still makes me laugh. So for some backstory, at the time this happened, I was just 32. I'm an army vet and was shot 7 months earlier and was still recovering. Wow. My girlfriend, Katie, was also in the army, and she came home from deployment, and we decided to finally come out to our parents as lesbian. And when we did, our parents were very accepting, thankfully. My mum was from a very Christian family who were openly racist, homophobic, sexist, classist, and probably many other things I'm forgetting. Now, my mum was the youngest child and was picked on a lot by her family. It only got worse once I and my older sister came into existence. Now, I am ginger, and I was always roughhousing with the boys in primary school and nursery, and I have never worn a dress. They like girls to be delicate, pretty, stay-at-home mums at 20 and have kids. Think of their disgust and outrage when I spent 5 years in cadets, earned my black belt in taekwondo, and joined the army the week before my 18th birthday. So they already hated me, and since I didn't give a flip, I still don't, family dinners usually ended in stern looks from my parents to shut up. When this happened, Katie was still in the army and had received new deployment orders not long before. She was due to leave in 2 weeks, and we were together as much as possible because we knew how much we would miss each other. Now onto the story. My mother had not much choice, so she had to host a family dinner at our family home. We are fairly well off and had a larger dining room than my grandparents, who were the only others who lived in Glasgow like us. I was living at home then, since my parents didn't want me on my own whilst I was recovering, and Katie and I were looking for a place for ourselves around the time this went down. So, Katie and I were talking in my room when they arrived. We had dinner. My mum and dad were forced to listen to my entitled aunt's political views and frankly screwed up opinions. My sister Amy, Katie, our cousin and I were talking to ourselves at the other end of the table and ignoring them. Our cousin wasn't bigoted or homophobic or anything, and we trusted her, so Katie and I told her of our engagement. We were mainly talking about the army. My entitled aunt thought Katie was just a friend staying with us. Now, I committed a mortal sin in front of her. I had a beer, another thing she believed girls shouldn't drink. Now, Amy had a glass of wine, but my entitled aunt said that wasn't as bad because Amy was a proper lady. Now, anyone who's argued with my sister knows she isn't, but never mind. My entitled aunt said, "What are you doing? Having a beer? You can't have that." "Why? You shouldn't be drinking." She then turns to my dad. "Control your sinning daughter." My dad just said, "She's 32. She can have a bloody beer. No man will marry a girl like you." I was wearing my engagement ring and had a smug look on my face as I held it towards her. "What was that, EA?" She spluttered a little bit. "Well, where is he then? Have your parents met him?" "Yes." She cuts me off. "You kissed him yet?" "Yes." My entitled aunt had a shocked Pikachu face. "You stay away from your cousin. You'll corrupt her." Now, my cousin was 28, and I knew for a fact she had slept with her boyfriend. I lost my cool. I probably would have hit her, but Katie jumped up to hold me back. My dad was angry too. Katie and I cooled off in my room for a bit before going back to the living room, and we talked with our cousin and Amy. She apologized for about 5 minutes straight. This time, both Katie and I were having a beer. She was sitting beside me on the sofa, and my entitled aunt comes back, sees me with my beer, and snatches it from me. "How could you still be drinking when I told you not to?" "I don't have to listen to you, aunt." "Does your stupid fiancé know about this? Do you have his permission?" "Yes." "Call him then. Go on." Katie excused herself, and I saw her look. I knew what to do then. I take out my phone and flip through the recent call log to find Katie's number. As soon as she saw the number named Sweetheart, she snatched my phone and called the number. Katie whispers something to Amy and she nearly bursts out laughing. Katie picked up from across the room. Her phone was on silent, so we didn't hear it ring. The second it connected, my stupid aunt started on a rant about how trashy I'd been acting and how drunk I was. I was on my second beer and completely sober. Katie was laughing and my entitled aunt ended with a question. Do you allow her to act so trashy and drink all the time? She'll corrupt my daughter. Katie said, I don't have to let my fiancé drink. She does what she wants. The realization suddenly dawned on her. Her mouth opened like a fish, gaping at us. Amy was in hysterics. Now, since I don't give a flip, I patted the space beside me on the sofa, looking at Katie. Come on, honey, we've only got 2 weeks until you leave me. Katie grinned, walked over to lie beside me on the sofa, as the entitled aunt was still gaping. She yelled something about corrupting her daughter a bit more, threw my phone on the ground, and ran to my parents, and yelled at them for having such sinful daughters and supporting the work of Satan. I have other stories of her and other entitled parents from my work if people want to hear. Sorry for the long read. No, I enjoyed every second of it. Well, yeah, I mean, telling someone not to drink when they are 32 years of age is pretty insane. And then just, being openly homophobic as well. I mean, well, was it homophobic? Maybe she just didn't realize it, and that's fair enough. But yeah, maybe she didn't realize. I'm being a little bit harsh there, I think. Overall, great story though. Really enjoyed it. Let's move on to the next one. The swings are only for my kid. This story is my account of what happened before Corona, this is, by the way. I was on the swings at my country club with my sister one day, just talking and having a good time. I was 7 and my sister was about 6. An entitled mum and her entitled kid walk up to us. The entitled mum said, "My angel says you won't let him on the swings. Is that true?" I was scared at this point. No, remember I'm 7 and I'm not used to having angry Karens coming out of nowhere and yelling at me. "How dare you call my angel a liar? He told me so and he never lies." I say, remember, I'm still scared, almost shaking. I'm sorry, but I didn't say he could not go on the swing. I'm sorry. "Where is your mother? I need to tell her how rude you were to me and my son." Now this was the oldest trick in the book. I pointed at the nearest woman and said, "Her," as fast as possible and booked it for my real mum. That's very clever. My mum sees us and runs over. "What happened?" Me and my sister say, "Some lady started yelling at us for no reason." My sister didn't talk during the initial Karen attack because she was on the verge of tears. Remember, we are 7 and 6 years old. "Where is she? I need to go talk to her." "Over there," I say, pointing. My mum walks over to the entitled mum, who is now in a lawn chair. "Hey, were my kids being disrespectful to you?" My mum takes the strategy of killing them with kindness. "Yes, they were not letting my kid go on the swings." "Oh, I'm sorry, but I saw what happened and I did not see your kids say anything to my kids, and they didn't say anything either." "Are you calling my son a liar? How dare you?" The entitled kid starts running in the background. I take notice and realize what he is doing. He is running directly towards the swings. Now me, being the petty little 7-year-old that I was, took off running trying to save our swings. My sister soon realized too and started running. We beat him there by a second and he jumped right on my swing anyway with me on it. I pushed him off and the following ensues. The entitled kid jumps up to the tower next to the swings with a handful of wood chips from the floor of the playground and throws them like carpet bombs, getting me and my sister very dirty. His entitled mum then comes running over with my mum close behind. "You hurt my baby, you little..." My mum interrupts. "They are children. Watch your mouth." Yes, my mum was that kind of parent. "Well, they hurt him and I will not stand by while you let your kids make all of their own decisions on their own." They're their own decisions. Wait, what? "They are rude and hurtful and should have never been allowed to come here. Keep in mind that this is a members only club and you need a friend to be there or ready to sponsor you, so it is hard to get into." The entitled mum grabs my arm and throws me off the swings nearly to the ground. Now, a country club employee gets involved. He has seen the whole thing. "Mom, I'm gonna need to ask you to leave this family alone or you will be asked to leave. Your child threw wood chips all over these kids here and they did nothing wrong." The entitled mum says, "It was them," pointing at us. "They attacked my kids and were going to attack me. They pushed my baby off the swings and were going to attack me." "Mom, I'm going to need to ask you to leave." "No, it was those little monsters." "Now." The entitled mum grabs her kids and leaves. Finally. Yeah, I mean, for me, the funniest part of any entitled parent story is when an entitled parent just blatantly lies and then gets called out on their lies by someone that has seen the whole event unfold. Like in this instance, the employee saw everything that happened. Like you can't like try and kid him. You can't lie to him. He's seen it all. If you lie to him, it just shows that your story is a load of bull. And yeah, you're gonna get kicked out. I'm sorry about that, Karen, but that's the way it works. Also, that kid, he's a little sneaky one, isn't he? He was going along with what his mum was saying, and then secretly, when they were in an argument together, you know, OP, your sister, your mum, and the entitled mum, and even, you know, the employee at the end, he was like, you know, I'm going to sneak off and go on a swing. This is all a big plan. I don't know how old that kid was, but he's going to grow up to be the next genius, that's for sure. I love that plan. Very, very good stuff from him. It was a bit cheeky, but yeah, very good stuff nonetheless. I advocate that. I tricked a Karen, illusion 100. I am at my grandmother's beach house, and the only way to get onto my street is to cross the highway. So, I was riding back on my bike, and I stopped to cross the highway. This entitled mum was waiting to go across the highway. She said, "That's a cool bike." "Oh, thanks. Can I have it?" No, I need this to get home." "Please, my son really wants a bike." I can't get home without this." "Don't disrespect your elders. I am older, so I get the bike." So I didn't want to start a screaming match, but I had an idea. Okay, can I at least cross the highway first?" "Okay, fine." So I cross the highway with her. We end up at the end of my street, and I start to get on my bike. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" "Oh, the pedals were getting loose. I'm just trying to fix them for your son." The entitled mum just waited. I get on, pretend like I'm fixing the pedals, then start riding at full speed. I get to my house, and the entitled mum is behind me, but far enough that I can breathe. I yell into my house for my grandmother to come out. Then I put my bike away and hide in the house. My grandmother is very good at telling people off, so that Karen left fast. I don't know what happened in the conversation, but it worked. Oh, what a story. Yeah, I wanted to include this one because it's very rare that you see Karens get tricked. You know, it might be one of the first times I've ever seen this. So yeah, fair play to OP. You definitely got her. Yeah, well done. Again, I'm not entirely sure what she was expecting to happen. You know, just asking randomly for your bike. Did she just literally expect you to give it to her? I don't know, but anyway, mate, fair play, you did well. Moving on to our second story now. My entitled mother, who is not disabled, parks in the disabled parking and gets a fine she refuses to pay. My mother is a mega Karen, and I have 16 years of stories to tell about her entitlements. Here's yet another one. This happened in 2004 when I was 14. We just moved from Australia to New Zealand. The town had a population of around 12,000 people, which was a big step up from the town we moved from, which was around 2,000 people. It seemed like my mum's entitlement got worse by having an extra 10,000 people for her to annoy. Within a month, my sister and I had settled into our new schools, and Mother Dearest found her preferred, cheapest grocery store to shop at. I should mention that my mum is not disabled, but did that stop her from parking in the disabled parking spots? Nope. The first month went fine, until my mother got lazy. Whenever we went grocery shopping, she would always complain while walking towards the entrance that there was never anyone parked in the disabled parking spots. And she would say things like, "I don't see why I'm not allowed to park there," and "there's nobody in this dang town that needs it anyway." This last comment was total BS on her part, as there was a paraplegic who lived in the town which she knew about. And look, regardless, those spaces are for disabled people, not her. Then one day, me and my sister were in the car while mum was driving to the grocery store. We usually park close to the front door, but just to the side where there were usually a few spare parking spots. I was expecting her to stop there, but she didn't. Instead, she drove all the way to the front and parked in the disabled parking spots. "Mum, this is disabled parking. You can't park here." "Well, of course I can. The spot is vacant." "No, it's illegal for you to park here. You'll get a fine." "No, I won't. I have the right to park here if there's no disabled person parked here." "I don't see any disabled people. Do you?" "Whatever, mum, but you're going to get a fine." I got out of the car and walked across the street to the park. I didn't want to be seen with my mum, but I wanted to keep an eye out for the parking officer or police person who I knew would come. Even in a small town, the police were very diligent about rule breakers. And sure enough, 10 minutes later, I saw a policeman walk up to the car, check the license and lack of disabled sticker, and write a ticket that he placed on her windscreen. I sent Mother Dearest a text that I'd meet her at the petrol station when she was done. I didn't want to be seen getting into her car, but I made sure to hang around so I could see her reaction when she saw the fine. Sure enough, just 10 minutes later, I saw my mum come out of the store, see the tickets, and, well, she flipped out. She started cursing and stomping her feet on the ground like a child that lost their toy. Only in this case, it was a fine of $80. I chuckled to myself as I walked to the petrol station a few blocks over. I got there a few minutes before my mum did, and I could see the anger on her face as she got out of the car, slammed it, and started filling up her tank. I faked concern. "What's wrong, Mum?" "You shut your mouth." I just smiled and got into the car. When we got home, my mum got straight on the phone to debate the parking fine. I overheard the call. Yeah, I got a fine for parking in an empty parking spot. There was nobody else parked there." "No, but I had to park there because I have a bad leg and can't walk that far." "What? No, I don't have a sticker, but... no, that doesn't matter. No, hold on. What? But... no. Disabled? No, but... oh, you stupid idiot, I'm not paying this fine." And she hung up. A month later, I'd assumed she'd paid the fine, but obviously not. She got a letter in the mail regarding an unpaid fine, which was now $100 due to relayed payments. Mum went to the courthouse and paid it, but I didn't hear the end of it for 3 months after that. She just complained about it any chance she got, making it out like she was the victim. I wish I could say that she learnt her lesson, but she didn't. She parked there a few more times, and shock horror, got more fines. A Karen never learns. Oh wow, what an idiot. You know, it does seem a little bit silly, this whole story, but I just think to myself, in the back of my head, what if a disabled person actually did come to that store and there were no disabled spots free, and say he or she had to park, miles away, a good few hundred meters away at the back of the car park and try to get to the store? It would be horrible. So yeah, just even if you don't think there are any disabled people near you, in your town, in your country, whatever, I know that's obviously ludicrous, don't park in disabled spots, guys. It's just not the done thing. And yeah, I mean, clearly this entitled mum deserved her fine. What a stupid idiot as well. When you get a fine for parking in a disabled spot, don't argue, don't make up stuff that you have a bad leg. If you have a bad leg, and you actually do, you'd have like that blue disabled sticker that you can put on your dash cam or dashboard, and then you won't have to pay your fine and you can go in a parking spot, a disabled parking spot. Don't lie about it. And yeah, she got what she deserved, having to pay $20 on top of that initial fine just for being stupid and not wanting to pay. Now for our final story of today's video, she is not adventurous. Growing up, steakhouses, seafood, Chinese buffets, and Italian were my options in terms of eating. Even on my birthday, those were the options that I got to choose from. When I got older, I would cook or buy pre-made from the store, but I wanted to try more foods. I was tired of the same old, same old. I would try anything new on the menu, and if nothing was new, go to my favorites because I had tried everything else. So, after my boyfriend and I had been dating for a while, I see this Indian restaurant, and at night, its prices are high, nearly $50 a person. But at lunch, it's a much more manageable $12. So I ask him, "Hey, can we go there for lunch someday?" He looks and says, "I thought you didn't like Indian." Well, I'm not sure how I would ever have known. I've never had it before, but always wanted to try. A few weeks later, a new shop opened up across campus. I wanted to check it out, and when we go in, my boyfriend goes, "Oh, gyros, let's go." "Why do you not like gyros?" "No, I love them. I thought you didn't like them." "No, I love them and hummus. Leave me alone with a tub of that and some pita and I'm very happy. Try it with naan, even better." So while we were waiting for our gyros, I asked him, "Why do you think I hate everything? There are so many options, but unless I suggest it, we only go to Chinese or Italian places." Now apparently when I was first dating my now husband, he asked my parents for advice and wanted to take me and them out to dinner to get to know them better. My mum told him I was not culinary adventurous and to stick with Chinese, Italian or seafood. She told him this because that is what she likes and wanted to be taken to one of those. We have been married for 3 years now, and there are still times where he will say, "I thought you didn't like that." And I will have to tell him to stop listening to my mother. I don't know if I like it until I try. She even catered our wedding to suit her taste and went way over budget buying things on her own that she wanted. Then afterwards, she complained about the financial strain. Wow, that is a super original story. I don't think I've ever read one like that on the r/EntitledParents subreddit before. In terms of your mother, yeah, really horrible, and what a manipulative thing to do for no real reason. Surely she could have just said to your boyfriend, now husband, can we just go to an Italian? I quite fancy that. Like, don't just lie about your daughter and say, oh, she doesn't like any other food apart from these 3 things. What a weird thing to do. So guys, that is going to do it for this movie. I really hope you have enjoyed it. If you are still watching right now and you actually watched the entirety of this video, what, almost 2 hours worth, then you are an absolute legend, I have to say. Thank you very much for watching all the way through. If you do want to watch some more movies, if you've got a lot of time on your hand, well, all 4 are on screen right now. And also, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you are new, so you never miss out on one of my daily uploads.